Welcome to season 3 of Hot Media with Bob Mann. Yes, we are back for a third season, and we are doing something very exciting. At least it's exciting for me, and hopefully it will spread hot media quite a bit. We've added video. We tried one episode over the course of the summer, and now it's going to be a regular part of the format. And as you can see, since I have a two-shot up on the screen right now, one of our most popular guests and regular guests is Dr. Paul Levinson, and I always ask Paul to be on for whatever is something new and big for us. And so, Paul, thank you very much for coming on this episode of Hot Media as we get started again and get started with something new.
I'm truly delighted to be here, Bob.
And for those of you who are new to us, especially if you're watching on YouTube, of course, I have to get a certain number of URLs, Paul, before I can actually have a unique, rather a number of downloads and subscriptions before I can get a unique URL. But Paul is a professor of communication and media studies at Fordham University in New York City. And that is my alma mater. And Paul has been with us on a number of occasions. And as you can see, I'm getting used to the software here of operating on StreamYard. So I just named myself Paul Levinson, PhD. But that is not the case.
I'm honored.
I know that's I've just stolen your identity completely. I am Bob Mann, the host of the program, and if you're new to this, I am a professor of communication and media studies at Caldwell University in New Jersey. And I named the broadcast, or the episode rather, to start off season 3, The Big Picture, because Paul can give us the really big picture, not just talking about the news and the politics, but talking about the entertainment. So let's start with the serious stuff first. President Biden, over the course of the summer, had the quote that he had to walk back, which was, Facebook is killing people. But let's face it, when you look at the misinformation out there, especially against vaccines, social media, including Facebook, bear a certain level of responsibility. Is there a way to tackle this misinformation? Paul, can you hear me?
Yeah, you faded out for a second. The last I heard was, is there a way to tackle?
To tackle this is there a way to tackle this misinformation? So that was the question. So you can take it from there.
Well, yes, I do think there's a way to tackle this misinformation. The problem is anytime the government does something to regulate media, including social media, including Facebook, it runs into the problem, which, as you know, I'm very sensitive to and have spoken out against, of the government violating the First Amendment, telling some kind of communication organization what to do. And I take that very seriously. And obviously, before Joe Biden was president, Donald Trump was president, and he regularly articulated anytime anything in the media was to his disliking, which usually amounted to they criticized him on very reasonable grounds, he was saying, hey, we should put them out of business. The government should crack down on them. So that's the one side of the argument. But the other side is, I think Joe Biden was completely right that these malicious, ignorant, insane pieces of disinformation, not only on Facebook, but on social media all over the place, they do an enormous amount of damage because we're still in the grips of this pandemic. Even people who are vaccinated, there are breakthrough cases, as we know. But if you're not vaccinated, it's far worse. You get far more seriously infected. You can end up in a hospital and die, and you can also infect a lot of other people. So this is a time when we really need to get as many people vaccinated as possible, wearing masks as possible. And it certainly doesn't help when someone sees something on Facebook which is a complete lie, complete nonsense. By the way, I received something early in the pandemic. I don't know why I got it. It was a very slick video that someone I didn't know sent it to me. And the video was someone who claimed to be a doctor, a woman wearing a white coat, and she was explaining why you shouldn't take the vaccines. They weren't even available yet. But her reasoning was that Bill Gates had embedded into the vaccines some kind of nanotech, and he would be able to keep track of us. So, I mean, that's not even a good science fiction story. It's so lame. Why would Bill Gates?
And why does Bill Gates want to do that? I mean,
Exactly.
it's like, man, there's not even the incentive. He wants to track some guy, in Alabama. And why would he want to do that?
Well, that's right. And you know what I always say? I don't mind the government or anybody tracking me as long as the tracking takes into account my books, my music, and stuff, because that's good publicity. But anyway, seriously, that's the level of insanity that Facebook has put out there, and I think Biden is right. It might have been an extreme statement, but Facebook needs to do even more. It's trying, but it needs to do more, much more than it's currently doing, to root out those insane communications.
I saw what clearly must be a commercial. I don't think it was a public service announcement calling for new internet legislation. The last legislation that we had goes back so far. It has Section 230, I believe is the number, which totally lets the carriers off the hook for any liability. Do you think, and I know you're not big on government interference, you don't like the FCC very much, but do you think it is time for some sort of internet legislation that reflects the 2020s rather than the turn of the millennium?
As long as the legislation is focused on life and death matters, that's the key. If the social media are broadcasting information that can lead very directly to people dying, then I think the government should step in, because the First Amendment does not protect, for example, criminal conspiracies to kill people, and they may be hatching these conspiracies through some kind of online system. The fact of the matter is, no social medium would allow a criminal conspiracy to be developed if they knew about it, the social media on their system. So I have no problem at all with the government, in effect, enforcing that criminality will not be permitted on social media or anywhere in any kind of communication, because stopping that is not at all inconsistent with the First Amendment. But I think the problem always is this legislation is something that goes through the hands of many chefs, and maybe that's dignifying the politicians who put it together. And I would need to see that legislation to make sure that there would not be a pretext for a Trump to come in, use that legislation and say, I don't like what you're saying about me. You're saying I'm a bad president. We're going to crack down on you under this legislation.
Yeah, it could really be the slippery slope. Now, you and I have had no problems in season 1 and season 2 criticizing Trump, but now the question is, how did Joe Biden handle Afghanistan? Did he blow it? Did he act too quickly? Did he ignore good advice? How do you feel the news media covered Joe Biden? Now, I mean the mainstream, not Fox and Newsmax, but those who are normally accused of giving Democrats a free pass and not have the same for Republicans. Were they tough? Were they the watchdog in terms of President Biden's actions in the Afghanistan withdrawal?
Well, let me start by saying that I strongly supported what Joe Biden did. And yeah, but I'm not a military strategist. I suppose that there could have been better ways for the actual withdrawal to have taken place, but I don't really know. That's sheer speculation. What I do know is that we have been and were in Afghanistan for 20 years. By the way, there was never a declaration of war. So like every war that the United States has been involved in after World War II, so we're talking about the Korean War, the Vietnam War, et cetera, those wars have been unconstitutional. no congressional declaration of war. So for that reason alone, we should have gotten out of there a long time ago, but there were many other reasons. And I know that Barack Obama tried and then basically pulled back a little bit. So I applaud what Joe Biden did, the courage that it took to do that.
But the optics were bad. It was very much Saigon 1975.
The optics were terrible. And I don't know whose fault that is. I think the reality was terrible. So again, for all I know, it wasn't handled in the best possible way. I mean, but I don't understand, frankly, if you announce that you're going to withdraw at a certain date, then obviously you're going to invite this kind of action that the Taliban did while the old government was still there, because they saw it was coming to an end. So that would be a good time to attack. I mean, that's just common sense. That's not military strategy. But I think the media did a pretty good job in covering it. I watch MSNBC and CNN regularly. I watch Fox once in a while if I can stomach it. But the left wing progressive media, they by and large didn't let Joe Biden off the hook. There were a lot of people there, groups of vets who, were very unhappy about the way the withdrawal took place, and they were giving Joe Biden plenty of criticism. So I heard that and I understood that, and I think history will say that Joe Biden did the right thing, and there was no way to withdraw. I mean, what I would have done, but again, I don't know, because this is obviously there's a reason that they don't do this. I would have withdrawn without announcing it, so much in advance. But that's never the way it works.
Or hold it as a carrot or whatever. But since we stick to the media aspects of all of these political issues, you feel that the mainstream media was duly critical of the president in terms of showing all sides.
Yeah, I do. I heard plenty of criticism. I mean, so much so that my wife and I pretty much have the same view. That is, we both support Biden on this. We both turned to each other many times and said, "Well, they're being pretty tough, on Biden." And but good. That's what they should be doing. I think media should constantly be critical of presidents. And I heard plenty of that, and I'm sure we're going to continue to hear plenty of that in the months ahead.
Let's turn to the fun stuff. Streaming. Great television. I'm teaching a course this semester called TV show genres, and we talk about TV as an art form. You're the one who really turned me on to that idea, that it's getting so good that it really can be compared to cinema or literature. And one of the things I have to talk about first is a Netflix show called The Chair. I have never seen any show, especially a sitcom, nail university life. I mean, it's got it perfectly. And since I've already identified where I work, I'm not going to go into some of the details that I can say I can relate directly to, but there are an awful lot of them. But it also had a very serious issue in which a professor who was mocking fascists and Nazis gave, in a satirical way, a Hitler salute and was labeled a Nazi because that simple soundbite and image on social media can bring down a career. Talk a little bit about The Chair and, the funny aspects, but also the fact that it was a bit of a dramedy and had some serious aspects of university life as well.
Well, first of all, on that point, that actually is a very valid and powerful critique of social media, because anyone can take any little bit of a video clip, put it up there, and it can easily be taken out of context, which is what happened with that professor. He basically was not giving a Nazi salute because he was a Nazi. He was basically warning the class of what could happen when things go wrong in a society. And he was saying the result could be, and he gave a Sieg Heil salute. It was a vivid way of showing that. So that was a very effective critique of social media. But as far as the material about what goes on in the academic world, wow, was that 100% right on? I mean, so as you mentioned, I'm at Fordham University, and listen, I don't mind if Fordham University hears me saying that those cameras could have been rolling in departmental meetings that I attended at Fordham University. And I got to say, I mean, Sandra Oh did a great job in the title role of the chair, but David Morse's portrayal of the dean, my God, I think he has an office right now at Fordham University. I have to go in and see him. You know,
He could go to higheredjobs.com and get a VPAA job right now.
Are you kidding? Any university would snap him up because he was like the perfect dean. I don't look. This is not something that just pertains to any particular university. Every single university.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the universal appeal of it.
Exactly.
I think this is great about it.
That's right. I think that all that dean cared about in the chair is money. So the three most elderly faculty, they were pulling down high salaries because they've been there a long time, and their enrollments, you know, weren't the greatest. By the way, that part though is not true of professors like you and me, because we still have incredibly high enrollments, even though we're not young.
Absolutely, we're so popular. And by the way, may I just note that MyVPAA, who is a new VPAA, is a listener and a subscriber to Hot Media. So he's going to hear this. So let me just say, Peter, that this doesn't mean you. This does not mean you.
Okay, so you know what I'll do is to sort of like a fig leaf for Fordham. This pertains to prior deans at Fordham, in my experience.
That's correct.
None of the current deans, I'm sure, are like that David Morse character. But you know, the focus on, you know, of the higher administration on this, you know, faculty who are making, you know, decent salaries, they have to have enough students in their classes to justify that. That is the bedrock of every university. You know, people often mistake the notion of a nonprofit organization as an organization that doesn't care about the intake of money. That's not true. Universities need money.
And they have to survive. It's not as if it's some sort of hypocrisy or greed. It's, you got to keep the lights on.
That's right. And by the way, one of the reasons that universities are so quick to want to go back to in-person classes right now, which just for your audience, I don't completely agree with. I am teaching this fall again in person at Fordham. I am loving it, by the way. It is fun being in a class in person as much as I enjoy Zoom and video conferencing. But the reason that Fordham and so many other universities are trying to, if it's at all possible, if they can find any medical reason to say, well, it's safe to go back. And, you know, there's some people think it is okay, others disagree, but it's a monetary basis. Universities don't want to lose students. They don't want to lose the income that the university gets from student enrollments. So that focus on money was very apt. The marginalization of women, which was very vividly and humorously portrayed, you know, in the chair, is also true in universities. It's still very much, universities are very old-fashioned. You know, they basically come out of a very long tradition of male dominance. You know, they've accepted women for a long time, for 50 or even 100 years. You know, there've been women professors, but until very recently, it's been the men who have the power. And that point was brought across very well in the chair.
Right. Even though they are doing everything they can to create an atmosphere of equality, now there are the residual effects of what was going on for decades, if not in certain places, centuries. So it's a good one. I don't know if it's a little too inside. Maybe we love it because it was like, wow, that's it. I've been through that. I know that. But you know, sometimes you wonder if it's a little too inside, but that's the beauty of streaming. If you find it to be too much of an inside joke, don't watch it. Watch something else. There's thousands, literally, of other things. And with only about 10 minutes left, and I thank you for the time that you always give us, pick one thing that you love that you've seen on streaming since we went into hiatus and since we last spoke to you in May, that you would like to tell the audience about.
I'll tell you something that my wife and I just finished watching a couple of days ago. It's a British show called River. There was only one season made of it, and It starred, I can never remember his first name, starts with an S. His second name is Skagstead, I think, or he's a Swedish actor. And
Skarsgård?
Yeah, it's not Gard, Skarsgård, I think.
Him, that guy. He
Yeah.
was good.
I'm like the publicist's worst nightmare. I can never get a name straight. But he plays a detective, and his partner, played by Nicola Walker, is killed. You find this out at the very beginning, and it's a short miniseries. Nicola Walker is, in my view, one of the best and in many cases underrated actresses. She was fabulous in MI5. She was fabulous in Unforgotten, another streaming series that just actually finished. And she was never better than in this one season of River. And it was just very creatively done. One of the things I enjoy when I watch television or movies, I'm not sure if we talked about this on one of our previous shows, but I love when music is chosen from the popular culture and plays a major role in the actual exposition of the narrative. So in the movie Blue Velvet, which was an early David Lynch movie, there's a great scene in which Roy Orbison's in dreams. You have like a major character lip syncing what he's like sort of mouthing. Dennis Hopper plays this role, and he's mouthing Roy Orbison's in dreams, and it's just a very effective little part of that movie. Well, in River, there was a highly effective use of a disco song, which I barely remembered, called "I'd Love to Love," and that became sort of a touchstone in this series. And I thought that was very, very effectively done. So for anyone who likes the integration of music into either movies or television, I would recommend River as well.
And speaking of music, one of the projects you're involved in is Music Beats Cancer. Is that the correct name of it? And
yeah.
Tell the audience how it works, because it's a very interesting idea, and you're part of it.
Yeah, well, there's an organization that's dedicated to raising money for medical causes. They're a 501c32 organization. They've been doing this for a couple of years, and they're trying, understandably, to get more research, fund more research for cancer. There are all kinds of breakthroughs that we're very close to based on analysis of genes. And what they've been doing for the last year or so is selecting a group of artists. And in this case, some 2,000 artists applied, and I was one of 30 who were selected to put themselves up as the faces and sounds of this campaign. So anyone who wants to come to my page, and that's Music Beats Cancer, one word, /artists /Paul Levinson, Levinson. You'll see like a whole write about me and my music, and you can listen to some of my music. And if you like what you hear and you think it's a worthy cause, you can donate money to this campaign. And look, cancer is continues to be the grim reaper. I don't know anybody in any family who hasn't had some heartbreak and tragedy with a member of their family succumbing to cancer. So we're making a lot of progress, in fighting cancer, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. And I think this is a good way of raising funds to do this and getting the public's attention.
Since we are going to take people behind the scenes here, as the podcast host learns to work the video on his own, why don't we just dictate to me what that site is, and then I can put it up as a chyron. Sure. Right now, even just on the air.
Good. So it's Music Beats Cancer, that without any spaces, /artists, ARTISTS, /PAUL hyphen LEVINSON.
All right.
You know what? I may have left out .org after if that didn't work. Great. Try one more time.
Okay, sure.
Music Beats Cancer, one word, .org. O-R-G.
.org. Okay.
/artists/Paul-Levinson.
And for those of you who are listening to the traditional audio aspect of this, we are absolutely going to repeat it for you because of the fact that it's a lot. And there it is for those of you watching the video up on the screen, musicbeatscancer.org/artists/Paul-Levinson. There you go. Wow, I've done my first on-air Chiron here. I mean, I had you as me, so that didn't work out that well, but at least we got the website in. And of course, they saw exactly how the sausage was made here. So listen, Paul, this is exciting. Trying to always expand things and make them work in different directions. And you're always there right in the forefront, going all the way back to our Sirius XM satellite radio days. So thank you as always. And I hope we can have you on in a pretty regular rotation now that we're back in business.
I'd be pleased to come on anytime, and having been with you since like shortly after the telegraph was invented in the 1830s, you can count on me to come on and show anytime.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you very, very much. And that is Professor Paul Levinson, who is professor of communication and media studies at Fordham University in New York City, who is our guest right here on this episode of Hot Media, the beginning of season 3. Okay, Paul, I hope that you're still on there because I